the question has become, who is next? I mean, we saw Comey get indicted, and there's a lot of talk about who's next on the list. I have some thoughts. I mean, one, of course, being Brennan, another being Christopher Wray, and we can get to this. But here's the one who's front and center on my mind. She doesn't look too happy there. Letitia James reportedly about to be indicted rather shortly. There was an article in Bloomberg over the weekend that said, indeed, she is the one who they are looking at this point in time. The U.S. Justice Department is pushing ahead with its investigation of New York Attorney General Letitia James over mortgage fraud allegations after President Donald Trump demanded that the case move forward. So that's, by the way, what they all keep freaking out about, because apparently, and this is being reported through back channels, so take it with a grain of salt, although he does actually get on TV and say, yeah, let's move this one forward, right? So they don't like that he's doing that. But who liked what she did, right? Remember how she was just so viciously wanting to bankrupt him? And she nearly did, for goodness sakes. That famous line in the ABC News piece where she was like, if he does not have the money to pay the funds after they hit him with a nearly $500 million fine, she said, we will simply have to take his properties. You could just see her, she's chomping on the bit saying, I'm going to go in, I'm going to take over a Trump Tower, it's going to be mine for the state of New York. This is a woman trying to make her political career on being anti-Trump and promising over and over again every day to go after Trump. That is what she ran on. And so when they're sitting there saying, hey, he's wrong, he's bad, I remind you of what she did. And I think she's going to be in trouble for that. She's being investigated, first of all, by the DOJ out of New York for a civil rights violation, because she was violating his civil rights by targeting him so distinctly. The other thing that she's, of course, being looked at is mortgage fraud herself. Apparently, she decided to buy a place in Virginia. And apparently, she decided in the power of attorney to say that that was her primary residence, when in fact, it couldn't be her primary residence, because you see, she's supposed to be living in Albany. She's supposed to be the AG in New York. So that didn't really fly. And well, it wouldn't really be legal. Now, she said, just a miscommunication here. Somebody else was filling in for me as my power of attorney, and they just checked the wrong box, and there's nothing to see here, blah, 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 blah. So, okay, I mean, one should think you should be held to a higher standard, Letitia James, given that you are an attorney general, and you are apparently an attorney, albeit not a very good one. In fact, what happened with your big case that you tried to get Donald Trump to pay a nearly $500 million fine on? It got thrown out, just as I predicted it would, remember?
Fox News Alert, a New York appeals court just this morning has thrown out President Donald Trump's massive civil fraud penalty. The decision from a 5-panel group in New York's appellate division changed the original decision that stood to cost Trump over $500 million. One appeals judge calling the lower court's penalty an excessive fine that violates the 8th Amendment of the United States Constitution. You might remember that New York Attorney General Letitia James' office says despite this decision, they will not be dropping the case.
It was so bizarre. I mean, the 8th Amendment of the Constitution, right? Because you can't have these insane penalties that mean absolutely nothing, absolutely positively nothing. And so, yeah, it got thrown out. And now what is she doing? She's going back and she's trying to sue again because she enjoys nothing more than using your taxpayer dollars in the state of New York to go after Donald Trump. Meanwhile, she's throwing her support behind Mamdani, the socialist who really wants to take your money and, well, I guess create government-run grocery stores with it and government-run housing. And keep in mind, there's a big article in the Post over the weekend. He's the guy that lives in a very fancy place back somewhere in Africa. His parents, they have this compound that's off the charts, gated compound. But Mamdani wants to take all of your money and redistribute it. By the way, I'm glad I sold my place in New York City when I did. Can you imagine? I mean, people are trying to hightail it out of there. Who wants to live in New York? You got to pay a 4% municipal tax. He wants it to go higher. Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York. I mean, you want to talk about just a political animal once again. She's actually coming out and supporting this loser. They just got Eric Adams to get out of the race. I mean, I don't know what they wound up promising him. There were some different things on the table, maybe the ambassador to Saudi Arabia. They had to make it be pretty good, right? Because he was in there and he wanted to, play for something big. But this just came out yesterday. We see that one Eric Adams is ending his bid for the election. They're in the mayoral race, perhaps setting the stage for Cuomo. I mean, I got to tell you, it's still going to be a really uphill battle for Eric. Forgive me for Cuomo, because really nobody likes Cuomo. There was a good piece in the Wall Street Journal, here we go, by the editorial board talking about this. The problem with Eric Adams getting out, they said, was it was just too late. In other words, Eric Adams should have gotten out a while ago, because then maybe somebody else would have had a shot. And now, I don't know. You could wind up with a socialist not job. Communist. He's a full-on communist. This is not good. This is not a good precedent for our country. And so now the Democrats, though, interestingly, it's like Trump just keeps outmaneuvering them. This is like a super duper 3D game of chess. Now the Democrats don't know what to do, because if they come out and they support Mamdani, then they're basically communists. And that's going to be a real problem. Let me read to you from this article. Voters are now left with former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who, we still haven't forgiven because of all the COVID stuff. Jessica Tisch, he was saying, or this particular editorial group was saying, they really should have run Jessica Tisch, who's the police commissioner. I guess she should have been running as mayor. She might have actually been able to win, but it's too late right now. And it's quite possible you're going to have a socialist nut job now be the mayor of New York City. We've had it before. Don't forget about Comrade de Blasio. But this guy, Mamdani, is taking it even further than Comrade de Blasio. Comrade Mamdani wants so much, much more. Free buses, free food, I guess, with government-run grocery stores, free housing. It's going to be bad. I would just say, I'm going to remind you guys, go look around the world, anywhere you want. You know what? Everybody's tried it at some point or another. And guess what? It never ends well. Ever. Ever, ever, ever ends well. You know what else is not looking like it's going to end very well? Have you guys been following what's going on with the shutdown? I guess that's another reason why Rosie is so concerned right now. It looks like the government shutdown is in fact nearing, this coming as Pete Hegseth gathers all of these generals to the United States from all over the world. Apparently it's just a feel-good meeting. But let me get you up to speed. The government is expected to shut down in a number of days. Apparently, this came up in an interview just yesterday morning with the president and a CBS reporter. And what's interesting here is that the CBS reporter got a lot of clarity from President Trump. Again, he doesn't mince words. I would tell you, as a reporter, I can count on one hand, two people that never, ever lied to me, ever. When I was reporting out a story, and one was actually Carl Icahn from Queens. And the other was Donald Trump. What do you know? From Queens. The guy's from Queens, True to their words. Anyway, he said, look, the shutdown is happening. I'm going to play you a clip from CBS. Keep in mind, it's a little bit slow. Everybody's reading a teleprompter. You can even tell the reporter is reading right off a teleprompter. A little inside baseball for you there. But it doesn't change what he's saying, which is that the president told him, yep, it's happening. You can blame Chuck Schumer all day long for this.
Spoke this morning to President Trump. Bob, top leaders, both parties, both sides of the Capitol are coming to the White House. Did the president tell you he thinks a shutdown can be avoided?
A shutdown looks likely at this point, based on my conversation this morning with President Trump. He says both sides are at a stalemate. Democrats want to extend health care subsidies that were part of the Affordable Care Act, but President Trump said his focus on health care is on preventing undocumented migrants from having access to any of the U.S. health care system. Now, it's illegal for any non-citizen to have that sort of access, but President Trump says we're not going to have it, quote, we're not going to allow it in terms of moving forward on any discussion unless the Democrats come to his side on health care and don't focus on the subsidies. But based on my conversations with top Democrats, that's not going to happen. So President Trump told me, quote, I just don't know how we are going to solve this issue. That makes a shutdown quite likely. And inside the White House, sources are saying President Trump actually welcomes a shutdown in the sense that he believes he can wield executive power to get rid of what he calls waste, fraud, and abuse. And there is that memo, as you mentioned, that says the government is ready to have mass firings if a deal isn't struck.
Reductions in force, right. Well, we also know that the president took some extraordinary public statements in the past few days. He publicly said he wants to see Adam Schiff, now a senator, Letitia James prosecuted, along with James Comey, the former FBI director, who is now indicted. Yesterday, he twice posted on social media about former FBI director Chris Wray. Did the president tell you, is he planning prosecutions?
I did not speak directly to the president about that today, but fishing around all weekend in his inner circle, it's clear this is just the beginning in terms of possible prosecutions of those who have scrutinized the president or criticized him over the years. You mentioned the mortgage policy potentially of Senator Adam Schiff of California. He's being discussed inside of the Trump administration. So is Letitia James, the New York Attorney General who sued the president over how he valued his real estate holdings. And there are others not even on our radar at this moment, like retired Joint Chiefs Chairman Mark Milley, who are being discussed as people who may have taken action against the administration or president in some way, allegedly, in the views of those inside, and they want to see the Justice Department hold them to account. There's such a gap right now in Washington. Republicans believe what President Trump is doing is accountability. Democrats are alarmed and see this as authoritarian government at work. And there's a real tension there that's not going away.
No, and a justice system that has to deal with evidence and facts. And we're going to talk about all of this ahead with some of our guests. Robert Costa, thank you very much for your reporting.
You know, it's sort of interesting. Here's another story that we haven't really gotten to, but you do know that all of the military officials are going to be gathering in Virginia this week as Pete Hegseth calls them all into a meeting. Apparently it's just sort of a rah, rah, rah. But back to the government shutdown. You wonder how it's going to relate to the government shutdown. I think that Donald Trump absolutely recognizes there's an opportunity in this, that the government shutdown will result in mass firings. And he has been wanting to trim the size of the government for quite some time. So it's sort of like, you know, he gets to have his cake and eat it too. Simultaneously, guys, you got Chuck Schumer who's out there saying, well, I'm not going to do this, that, and the other. And, you know, he's holding out because he wants health care for illegals. And that's not exactly a winning position, right? If we go back again to looking at those poll numbers that show no one is with the Democrats right now, that they are in such terrible, steep territory there because the favorability ratings are just so low, right? Unfavorable, 54%. So that kind of, it tells you a lot. So the government's going to get shut down. They're going to be these mass firings, potentially, and he's going to be able to turn around and blame the entire thing on none other than Chuck Schumer and the Democrats, leading, of course, these poll numbers to suffer even more. Another big story I do want to tell you about at this hour, and that would be Kash Patel. He's actually come out with saying there were 247 FBI agents in the crowd on J6. That is a big revelation, and he has been able to determine this. Kash has, because of some of the agents that have come forward. He said agents were sent into a crowd control mission after the riot was declared by Metro Police, something that goes actually against FBI standards, which is interesting. What's also really interesting and sort of amazing about this is that you had Christopher Wray come out and say that there were no FBI agents there. And so I think it's a little peculiar that you're getting these two different viewpoints. You know, that's rather remarkable. So what Kash is alleging here is that there was a failure of corrupt leadership that lied to Congress and to the American people about what really happened. And thank you, he said to the agents coming forward, we are now uncovering the truth. and he is vowing to get more definitive answers about the Bureau's role in the riots. Now, there had been some talk that it was actually some of the FBI agents that were instigating this. He's not saying that. I want to be very, very clear. He said that they were sent in for crowd control. He said, we're fully committed to transparency and justice and accountability. And so one wonders, is Christopher Wray possibly in some kind of trouble for, I believe here, having lied about this? This is going to become another big question as we go down the list here. And there's a lot of people that and Christopher Wray, by the way, was a Donald Trump pick. But once you start getting into the deep state, let's just say it gets really, really deep. And I think there's a lot of like CYA going on, and everybody has to cover for each other. And that's what they do. That's what they do. Anyway, there's so much news. We didn't even get to Soros today, so we'll have to save that one, I guess, for tomorrow. I want to remind you all about my company, 76 Research, because we just put out another note the other day that I can't tell you enough. Like, it's really important that you need to invest for your future. Hopefully, we can provide you with some good research in order to help do that. Initially, it's $1 a month, so go check it out at 76research.com with code word dollar, DOLLAR. This is my company that I started in conjunction with a brilliant investor, a very, very good longtime friend, Rob Horton. So between the two of us, I think we've got some good ideas out there to share with you. So please go check that out. It is lovely to have you all here. What happened? Oh my gosh, I almost lost you for a second. I almost lost you, but I didn't. We are climbing. We haven't had the party yet because, it's been kind of a downer. I was on my way to 1 million subs, and right around the time Charlie died, we got there. And I just wasn't in the mood for a lot of celebration. But, we will have a party. We will celebrate. I want to do something special for you guys. I thank all of you for your commitment to this program and for your commitment to transparency and to honesty and to truth, and for being here in support of me every single day. You have no idea how much that means to have you. This is just an organic operation. I just started doing the show almost 2 years ago, religiously every day. And you guys know, like, no matter where I am in the world, I'm doing this show. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to come on 5 days a week. I'm going to do video because, video is what I know and I understand. I feel like I can communicate with people better over video as opposed to audio. Although, good news, Spotify just went on to video. So I'm over on Spotify. I got it. Tomorrow I'm going to give you that link so that we can do that. I could use some stars. I could really use some stars and some subs. Yeah, so do your part. Go to the one with the blue picture. When I'm in red, that's the one that has the video. If you're over on Spotify and you check out the Trish Regan show, the one in blue with the red, and you have to listen to one of the shows for a little bit before you can rate it. But please, if you would rate it 5 stars only, please, I really would appreciate it. I mean that. I'm looking at Don Bacca, who's been here from the beginning, which is great. Peace of my mind. I didn't even get into Tylenol. No. And I'm just horrified by all these young women doing what they're doing. Have you seen this, guys? I mean, it's crazy. It's like all over TikTok, all of these young women taking Tylenol. I mean, it's like heartbreaking. I'm looking for it right now because I actually played this the other day. We have over 1 million views on this one. I'm going to play it for you right now. This is just concerning. It's terrifying. And it's again, I think, peace of my mind, it echoes sort of this TDS on steroids, like what we saw from Rosie O'Donnell earlier. This is concerning.
Okay, so this is happening. So I have a friend that's a nurse, is an ER nurse. And lately, there's been a spike of women coming in, especially women, coming in with poisoning because they took too much Tylenol or acetaminophen. So this is actually happening. I mean, are we for real right now? Like, you feel like you're in the Twilight Zone because these are adults. These are adult women. And they are now sending themselves to the emergency room because they're taking too much Tylenol.
And you're hearing of pregnant women doing this as well. There are no words. Let me just remind everyone, be very cautious. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm doing a public service announcement, for goodness sakes. What on earth right? What on earth have we gotten to when you're going to take risks like that with your own body and your unborn child? You know, we have a friend who actually, he needed a root canal, and over the weekend, this is years ago, took too many Tylenol, like a lot of Tylenol, because he was just going crazy with the pain before he could get into the dentist, and he died of liver failure. Okay, this happens. It happens. And, you know, to try and do something that might hurt yourself or your unborn child because you hate Donald Trump so much, I'm sorry, it doesn't even make any sense to me. Like, where are we going as a country? That is not a good place. You look at the tragedies, right, that happened over the weekend. That is not where we should be going. I don't like to even give them a lot of attention because I've read a lot about this, and there's this like copycat phenomenon. And that's why it's discouraged, like, you know, not to put the people's picture up and that kind of thing, because whatever's going on, we're in a very fragile state here, mental state. Maybe that's because of video games. Maybe it's because of lack of community, lack of religion, lack of family values that were so part of the American culture up until recently. I mean, again, it gets us back to where we started on this performer for the Super Bowl who has just such disgusting, atrocious lyrics that don't represent American values in any way, shape, or form. And so what are we trying to do? Shouldn't we get back to something that's healthier and better for everyone? I think we do. Let me know. Give me a thumbs up if you agree, okay? Let me know in the chat. And by the way, I read all the comments after, so you're always welcome to put something there too. I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you for being here. Until then, have a wonderful evening.